So, peacekeepers, peacemakers. What's the difference? Well, a peacekeeper is someone who governs over keeping peace. It's someone who's put in authority, someone who has the right mindset and skill set or the right attitude to keeping peace in a jurisdictive kind of way so that fairness seems to be sought for everyone. However, Jesus calls us to be peacemakers, not peacekeepers, because he's the one who ultimately governs over peace. But he tells us to become peacemakers. He says in Matthew 5:9, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." And what's that mean to be a peacemaker? Well, in fact, when we look at what Jesus talked about, he assured us that as long as we're on earth, we're going to face troubles, right? There's going to be chaos, there's going to be division and misunderstandings. And that's why there's a need for making peace. And so peacemaking requires action. And it compels us out of our own comfortable lives. It puts us in a direction of being a peaceful representation of Jesus and his authority and how to interact with those around us. So a few tips on peacemaking that I read that I thought were pretty helpful is that peacemakers lead the way with humility. So no one's perfect, right? We all need grace, and none of us are good but God, and we all need him. And so we lead the way with a posture of humility because we realize that it's God who leads us first in order to keep peace and to make peace with others. But peacemakers also lead the way with truth and grace. So anytime Jesus interacted with people, he did so with truth and grace. You know, he spoke honestly to people, and he met people where they were. That's all people, whether it was the poor and homeless or it was the high aristocrat Pharisees. He sought everyone with truth and peace. He may have said things that upset people, but he did it in a way that told truth, and he did it without having a type of reactive conflict. But we also look at peacemakers lead the way to the feet of Jesus. So apart from him, we can do nothing. There's no amount of good that we can do that can atone for what we are. But when we realize that we all as humans have a mutual brokenness due to sin, due to separation, due to death and sickness, that we have a mutual need for Christ because he can change everything. And so when we look at being a peacemaker, we need to do so with empathy. We need to be the mediator and not enforce the rule. We need to lead with truth and grace, because when we speak honestly and we speak openly, then people know our intentions as well as understanding what we're trying to say. And we also need to lead the way to the feet of Jesus. We need to point everything back to Christ in how we are, in how we act, and in what we do. Because we're peacemakers, not peacekeepers.